Thank you, Charlie, and it's curious for me to be following Paul because a lot of what I would have to say might be construed as being political, and although I completely understand and agree with what he's saying, I also want to say how moving it is to be here with all these voices today and hear what various people are doing and how these various layers of service and experience interact and kind of pile up. I was my experience of these wars and working with veterans started shortly after 9/11. I was an artist living in Maine, had a successful career as a surrealist. And when the rhetoric started after 9/11 to attack Iraq, I had a lot of the same emotions that I think veterans deal with. I knew that this was not the truth, what we were being told, why we were being taken into war. I thought that the democratic institutions of this country were not telling us the truth. They were not doing their job. They were, in fact, inhibiting the real work of democracy. I was full of anger. I was full of grief with all the potential victims. I was full of shame for this country and its arrogance, saying you're either with us or against us. As we all know, this is not the way you solve problems. And I thought, what can I do as an artist? I wanted to do the thing I do best, which is make pictures, and I wanted to use that emotion not in a destructive way because of the anger, but in some kind of positive way. And what that would be took me a long time to figure out. But finally, from the feeling of shame, I came up with this idea that I would just start surrounding myself by painting portraits of Americans whom I had great admiration for, who I thought had done with their lives, using their courage and persistence, they had spent their lives trying to close the gap between what we say as a country and what we actually do, which was a problem since the very signing of our Constitution, and we didn't fulfill its own promise by giving rights to everyone. So it's been a battle and a struggle ever since then to end slavery, for civil rights, women's rights, workers' rights, the end of child labor, environmental rights, all these things. And it seems to me that I kind of took my own reason for acting from the words of Arthur Miller, the great playwright, who said, I think the job of the artist is to remind people of what they have chosen to forget, much like what Paul does in his poetry, is to spread a sense of what this experience is really about. And for me, I mean, of course, you can take Miller's words in lots of different ways and lots of different things about our humanity, which we forget. But certainly one of them are things that come up as in the voices of some of the people I've painted. Let me just give you an example of a couple of the kinds of things that I do. I painted a portrait of Wendell Berry. I hope a lot of you know who Wendell Berry is, the great farmer, essayist, poet, novelist. At the end of the first Gulf War, he said, I think the most alarming sign of the state of our society now is that we have leaders willing to sacrifice the lives of young people in war, but not leaders with the courage to tell us to be less greedy and less wasteful. We have, I painted Marion Wright Edelman, the great children's advocate, who says, what's wrong with our children? It's adults telling children to be honest while they're lying and cheating. It's adults telling children to be nonviolent while they're marketing and glorifying violence. I believe adult hypocrisy is the biggest problem that children face in America. My interest, and I've been doing a lot of work with veterans groups, particularly in Maine, through the art process of making portraits like mine that involve not only a portrait, a self-portrait, but a statement then about what you've learned from your experience in war, and what you've learned then about how to behave in a society, and trying to use the portraits to teach citizenship so that we don't keep thinking up better responses, sane responses to atrocity, but we find ways as a society to prevent that atrocity in the first place. You can consider that sort of political in a sense, but to me it's much deeper than that. It's really deeply cultural, psychological, spiritual, and fundamentally democratic, what democracy is supposed to be all about. Thank you very much.